Hello and welcome to the business magazine program Business24, reaching you from the stables of NTA News 24. I'm Chimobi Walter Nudge, and I hope you find this episode very profitable. Now, today's package promises to be an eye-opener to some investment opportunities that exist in the solid minerals sector aside drilling the ground. So, let's dig in. The Federal Ministry of Mines and Development reports that Nigeria has more than 40 minerals spread across the country and in commercial quantity too. And that is quite an interesting revelation. And no wonder the drive by the present administration to diversify away from oil, such as the mines sector and other areas. A diversified source of revenue is key if Nigeria is to maintain her position as the largest economy in Africa. So, in this episode, we shall take you through one of the many resources in solid minerals, and that is gemstone. We shall also look at efforts being made by stakeholders to ensure every citizen enjoys the revenue that accrues from the mining, oil and gas sector, talking about beneficial ownership. Now, there is also a review of the capital markets and export tips from our in-house experts. All these after the break. Don't touch that dial. If you just tuned in, you're right on time. The program is Business24, reaching you from the Central Business District in the nation's capital city, Abuja. So, let's get started. It is common knowledge that Nigeria's solid minerals sector remains largely untapped, and it is also common knowledge that the industry is crowded by artisanal miners. Have you ever wondered why this not-so-skilled segment of our population continues to be engaged in crude methods of mining, despite government's effort at reorganizing the industry described in some climes as a huge revenue earner? Well, the answer lies in what is dug out of the ground, which has turned the fortunes of countries like Israel, Thailand, Sri Lanka, and even Botswana and South Africa. Joy Ozo had a conversation with some Nigerians engaged in gemstone business.
Gemstones are made of precious or semi-precious stones. They are mineral crystals and of various kinds, colors, and grades. Nigeria is rich in gemstones, and experts insist that this can sustain the economy if investment in the resource is maximized. Some indigenous investors who spoke with Business24 on opportunities in the gemstones value chain described the process as a unique one, with a variety of entrepreneurs involved in mining, processing, as well as cutting and polishing.
From the digging of the stones to cleaning them up, to cutting them, to polishing them, and then to selling them. Most of the times we found out that there are a lot of foreigners in the field that take most of the stones out. Like, for example, now it is noted that at least about 30% of gemstones in Thailand come from Nigeria. And of course, indeed, people have reported that when they've been to some of these shows, they've seen a lot of Nigerian gemstones. We are represented there, but I think our gemstones are more represented than we are. So it's truly an area of concern. The impact is to the entire value chain. that it's from the gemstone to the jewelry making and so on, and even the gold mining and processing, which is all part of it.
Aliu Abubakar Michelia is one of the local investors. He is involved in the entire gemstones value chain and says most of the miners are resident in the north and western parts of the country, while those involved in polishing, trading and the manufacture of finished products are in major commercial cities of the country from where the products are also exported. He says Nigeria is still largely shortchanged in the area of export due to a number of challenges.
Like me now, I have my lapidary that I used to polish the stone. If I polish it, before I used to take it to Sri Lanka to mount it on a on a silver on a ring, maybe pendant, ring, earring. But when you check the local goldsmith that we are using here, their own is not perfect like the international one, like the Sri Lankan, Thailand one. The differences are clear.
The global gems and jewelry market is projected to exceed $443 billion by 2022 on account of the booming tourism industry, establishment of a large number of exclusive showrooms by leading players, and rising online availability of gems and jewelry. For Nigeria to key into this huge market, experts suggest proper restructuring of the market as well as improvement of the area of skills and capacity of stakeholders. They also advise that more dwellers should be groomed to fill the market space.
My primary objective coming into this industry was to try and promote the dwellers. So as I came into the industry, I set up an online website, sreliciajewelry.com, for the it's an e-commerce multi-vendor website so that different dwellers can upload their products and sell to the local market, to the international market.
In all, industry players in the gemstones subsector are optimistic that with more commitment and proper regulatory framework on the part of government, the gemstone industry will further project and stabilize Nigeria's economy. For Business 24, I am Joy Uzo.
You see, the potentials that lie in the value chain of the gemstone subsector is huge, but industry analysts are worried over the opacity in which the mining, oil and gas industry seems to be shrouded. So, making the industry easily understood and beneficial to all is one of the cardinal objectives of the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, EITI. The Beneficial Ownership Declaration component of the EITI, to which Nigeria is a signatory, seeks more transparency and accountability in the extractive industry, which is a huge market and an revenue earner for Nigeria. I caught up with some experts on this subject matter, and here is what I found. With the subscription of Nigeria to foreign organizations such as the Extractive Industry Transparency International, EITI, and the Open Government Partnership, it became mandatory for Nigeria to implement an open register of beneficial ownership for companies in Nigeria by December 2019 to ensure that the Nigerian business environment is in line with transparency and global best practices. This is against the backdrop of President Muhammadu Buhari's commitment to the London Anti-Corruption Summit. The implementation of this policy will ensure that beneficial share owners of companies, especially in the extractive industries, is made a public document to strengthen the integrity of Nigerian companies. What is the Corporate Affairs Commission doing to ensure that Nigeria is prepared for this huge but very important step? Garba Abubakar is the Director, Compliance with the Corporate Affairs Commission.
What we have done on our part in the CAC is to include a new framework in the new bill for the reenactment of the Companies and Allied Matters Act that will make it mandatory for any person that holds shares other than a beneficial owner. The concept has been widened to cover any form of control. But if there is a legal requirement that imposes obligation on such persons to file that information with the Corporate Affairs Commission, then the CAC, every information filed with CAC is publicly accessible. The CAC will make this information available, and if there is need to investigate the affairs of any company, this information will be available to all the security agencies.
What does Nigeria and companies or shareholders stand to gain with the implementation of this policy, especially in revenue drive and abolishment of aliases in the Comprehensive Register of Companies in Nigeria, reduction in terrorism financing and illicit financial flows? Oji Ogbonna Oji is the Director of Communications with the Nigeria Extractive Industries and Transparency Initiative, NEITI.
This concept became necessary to be able to push the boundaries of information disclosure. Who owns what? Who are the owners of the companies that do business in oil, gas and mining? Do they pay the right taxes? Are they actually doing good business in the country? And this concept became necessary because of a global concern for terrorism financing, tax evasion, and then also whether these companies are also contributing meaningfully to corporate social responsibility in their host communities.
One of the major challenges against this policy is lack of awareness by companies and willingness to support the initiative. The civil societies and corporate unions are taking steps to change this narrative through research, advocacies and necessary engagements with relevant players in the industry.
Challenges is that we are trying to open up a new ground as we try to unveil a new level frontier for transparency and accountability. You have vested interest and challenges whose interests is threatened and will be dislodged by compliance.
For NMGS that creates the data and that creates the environment as well as doing the extraction, we have always been worried about one thing. The people say the person that pays the piper dictates the tone. We're not so much worried about dictating the tone, but we want the country to develop.
The respondents believe that this initiative will bring a revolution in the country's extractive industry. In Abuja, Chimubi Walter Naji for Business 24. The extractive industry should be made more transparent, and if you ask me, the beneficial ownership disclosure should be extended to other sectors too. Moving forward, it will interest you to know that President Muhammadu Buhari is on top of the situation and only recently signed Executive Order 8, also referred to as Voluntary Offshore Assets Regularization Scheme. Here is a summary of what the scheme is all about.
President Muhammadu Buhari's administration is stepping up regulations on money laundering and tax evasion by releasing a new Executive Order number 8 tagged Voluntary Offshore Asset Regulations Scheme for us. This took effect from Monday, 8 October 2018, signed by President Buhari. A statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President, Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, states that by this order, Nigerian taxpayers who hold offshore assets and incomes are expected to, within a period of 12 months, declare voluntarily those assets and pay taxes on them and expect certain specified benefits. President Buhari is optimistic that the new scheme will help to facilitate the expedient regularization of offshore assets connected to Nigeria and lead to a new expanded tax base for the federal government and also fund the Nigerian Infrastructure Fund in Switzerland.
To put the issues in proper perspective, Business24 sought the expert opinion of Oluwaseun Kadiri, a legal practitioner and tax professional.
The scheme is an initiative by the federal government, and this is born out of the fact that a lot of data has been gathered over the years and has been discovered that a lot of our finances, that's the funds in Nigeria, are being moved into other jurisdictions. Some people move those finances by just transferring funds illegally outside the country. Some conceal illicit finances by buying properties abroad. Some companies engage in some sharp practices, and therefore they shift the profits in which they are meant to declare in Nigeria and subject it to tax in Nigeria. They shift it to foreign jurisdiction, and by virtue of that, the tax base of Nigeria has been eroded. We are underdeveloped, and there is no enough finances in order to develop the nation. And there's been a lot of reports that shows that Africa generally has lost maybe over $80 billion every year to illicit financial flow. And also there's some reports that like in a particular year, over 1.1 trillion US dollars was illegally moved from Nigeria to other jurisdictions. So the government is awakened to the fact that this is been happening over the years, and they're trying to get people to voluntarily declare those assets and pay particular tax, that is due on those assets in order for them to be able to show up enough revenue for infrastructural development. Yes, VAT, for example, was a scheme whereby we said individuals, companies that have not been paying taxes over the years, that have not declared a particular income or assets, they should come forward and they should declare those assets and pay the taxes due on them. If they pay those taxes, they are free from prosecution, they are free from penalties, they are free from interest. That has given us a good number of revenue. Let's say 30 billion, and that has recorded a lot of success. Obviously, the successes that have been recorded, and also with the data that has been gathered during that period, that's discovered that there are a lot of funds and assets outside the country. And with the new agreements in place, we have a couple of tax agreements in place that can help jurisdiction to automatically exchange information. So all those assets, all those funds that were kept in those countries all over the years, and people think the government cannot find them, now it's much easier for them to find them. They know they can find those assets, they can trace them. So they are now calling on people that know that have these assets and income abroad to come forward, declare them, and pay the taxes on them. The VAT, for example, was more of income assets generally within the country. That's for individuals, for companies, but now they're taking a step forward and taking it offshore. That's more like taking it outside the country with respect to whether it's income, whether it's properties, because they've discovered that a lot of illicit financial flow goes out from Nigeria to other jurisdictions. So they are calling on them to come forward, declare these assets, pay maybe 35% on this, or pay the taxes that are due on this, and you are free from penalty or prosecution. And the implication of not complying with this is that from the information they have on ground already, they can levy a forfeiture order on it. They can seize those properties, or the owners of those properties might forfeit it, or probably maybe it's even the funds. Maybe if it's stashed in some accounts abroad, they can forfeit those properties. So they want them to come clean, declare them, and pay the taxes that are due on them, and they are free.
And away from tax matters, we bring you our Young Entrepreneur of the Week. Ronami Egirani tells us that our guest, Fadila Abubakar Blel, is in love with popsicles. Take a look at this.
Most of the companies in the food and beverage sector are small and medium enterprises. They generate over 2 million jobs in Nigeria and employ over 5% of the local workforce. Urbanization and a growing population presents numerous opportunities for anyone who plans to venture into this sector. Our entrepreneur for the week, Fadila Abubakar Blel, owns and operates a gourmet artisan popsicle company and the first popsicle cart in Nigeria. She tells us why she went into popsicle making and what her experience has been so far.
I wanted to create something that would give me like a daily income, and I'm a sort of person that likes to create, and I'm a foodie, I like food, so I just decided to come up with something that would cater to my creativity and my love for food.
Starting a business comes with a lot of uncertainty, setbacks and disappointment. Persistence, hard work and a tough skin are a necessity if you want your business to thrive.
I started alone. I didn't have any staff. I was a one-man person doing the whole work. So I had to think about if I want to expand, what do I do? How do I go about it? And I decided the best way to do it is to move out of my house, get a place, employ more people, and carry on from there.
The business has grown organically since its inception, and Fadila shares her plans for getting her popsicles into every supermarket and every home in the country.
Once our NAFDAC number is out, we'll be in the stores. What I see for ice pops is us on the streets, in the supermarkets, everywhere.
And with continuous hard work, she can definitely make it happen. In Abuja, I'm Ronami Agirani for Business24.
Young Nigerians doing amazing things with their hands. Well, let's hear from Femi Boyede, our in-house export expert, for those tips that could help you build your export business.
Government needs, especially in Nigeria, needs to have dedicated marketing outlets abroad. I'm being careful in the choice of words. Ideally, what we need to have is to have professionally manned, please mark my word, professionally manned commercial desks in every trade mission, Nigerian trade mission abroad. Earlier on, I talked about Canada. Canada actually has an agency, a dedicated agency, the Canadian Trade Commissioner Service, that has offices in 198 countries abroad. Their job is nothing else more than to market Canada, market Canada, market Canada. And if you look at what China is doing, trying to take control of the entire world, I think it is time for Nigeria to understand that it is not the job of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, it's not their mandate to be the marketer of Nigeria's exports. That's the reason why you have a professionalized Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment and a mandated Nigeria Export Promotion Council with legal mandate to do that job.
Let's take a look at the capital market review segments now.
The market witnessed a marginal appreciation of 0.21% compared with the previous week that it lost equally marginally. The all-share index appreciated from 32,383.15 basis points as at the close of the week ended 5th October 2018 to 32,456.98 basis points. For next week, we expect that the market will equally witness a marginal appreciation, though still with mixed sentiment.
If you would like to participate on any segment of the program, do call the numbers on your screen, and you can also follow us, of course, on the social media. And it is on that note that we draw the curtain on today's episode. Keep a date with us, same time, same station next week. I'm Chimobi Walter Naji. Many thanks for your time.